Hi everyone, my name's Tammy Wilden and welcome to Tammy's Tips for Effective Pulsing. Today we're going to go over a full body equine session, but first I'd like to demonstrate how we get set up with our Pulse Center's Pulse EQXX system. Now this is one of our most popular units for equine application, and for good reason, okay? It happens to be my favorite for working on horses. So the EQXX is basically two of our X units in one box. So it gives you the power to have individual controls for each side of the unit. So what that means is you could be working on the top line of the horse with one set of loops at one intensity and the extremities with another set of loops at another intensity. So it enables you to deliver the correct amount of magnetic field strength to each area and not be limited like you are with the X1. We're going to go over that in another video. So when we look at the XX, there's a couple things that you have to remember. People will get the system and when it arrives, it should be turned all the way down, but you need to check that. And it's just barely finger tight. Don't crank on the knob because it will stress that dial, okay? So you just want barely closed. The other thing is that you can turn the system on and nothing will happen. Why? Because we don't have an attachment in the port, okay? So you need to make sure that there is an attachment in the port. You don't have to have an attachment in both sides, just the side that you have on, okay? So those are some things. Also keep canned air. You can get that at any electronics store, and blow out these ports. I do it before and after I work with the system, just to keep things clean and nothing getting in there that shouldn't be in there, okay? So the second thing that I want to make sure you know is that we're plugged into an outlet with the surge protector. Never, 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 never plug this system into any outlet without the surge protector, okay? Anything goes wrong with your power and you can blow a fuse in the unit. So I have questions all the time about using extension cords. Yeah, you can use extension cords. What I do is I plug the extension cord into whatever I'm going to use, and then I plug the surge protector into the extension cord, then my system into the surge protector, so that there's nothing between your factory cord, your surge protector, then whatever power source you're using. Okay, don't go plug the surge protector into the wall, then an extension cord into this cord in your system, okay? So, when we're going to attach loops, outside. Oh, and always have your disinfectant wipes. When we're going to attach loops, I got my system long ago enough that I didn't get the cool duffel bag that comes with it now. It's very nice. So I use a rope bag, and it's just your average, ordinary, big old rope bag. I'm a team roper too, or ex-team roper, so I always have them laying around. So if we're going to attach loops, I'm going to do the mediums because they're easier to handle, and they all work the same. You should have them coiled nicely, Velcroed, so that they're neat, tidy, nothing bent in the rope bag. I like to take my Velcro and attach it to the cross tie. Now, if we're going to be working on we are going to be working on a horse in the cross tie. I lay my loop over the cross tie. And then as you uncoil these, make sure that you're uncoiling any kinks, because we don't want kinks in the cables when we're working. Now, in this instance, I'm going to put it in this side of the machine. Now, if I put it in this side of the machine, press firmly, double checking that it's off. Okay, so now this set of loops would be ready to work with. I'm going to test the power. And you hear the ticking. turn it off. It's ready to go. So if I wanted to just check the other side, in this system it doesn't matter if the cables are pointing the same way at all. Okay, normally I would have it facing this way. Knob is off. It's functioning, clicking in the coils. Okay, at this point you would be ready to move on with your session, and I'm going to be shifting this into a better position to show you how I like to set it up beside a... Hey everybody! Here we are to do our full body equine demo using the Pulse Center's EQ-XX. So for a full body session, we're using HTR Ringo today. He's my personal Pre-St. George dressage horse. And the reason I chose him is he's not a horse that is gonna just stand here like a statue. He's going to give us some feedback and allow you to see how we deal with those things when we're in the middle of a session. So you can see he's already starting to lick and chew. Horses that you work on frequently, they're gonna start to release just when they get around the equipment. It's pretty amazing. They love the stuff. So I discourage anyone from working on horses outside of a cross tie, a stall, or some other confined area. I think it's unsafe. So my perfect place I like to work is in a cross tie. I've got him secured. I use rope halters, but web halters are fantastic. Whatever the horse is used to is just wonderful. Loose enough that he can get his neck down some. My EQ-XX is all set up. I've got my loops over the cross tie so that there's no leads down around his legs to step on, for me to trip on. Safety is paramount. And keep in mind that if you have horses that have never been pulsed before or haven't been around ropes before, they may spook at this stuff. So one of the things I like to do before I even start on a horse that it's their first time being worked on, I like to take a set of loops and introduce the horse to the loops. It could be any set of loops, it doesn't matter. Again, we want to make sure that we don't fight the coils. So you're not going to be cranking them around. You follow the way that these coils want to work. If you find that they're in a bind, just keep following what the loops want to do and they'll uncoil themselves, okay? So first things first, for a new horse, the small loops are great because they're really easy to hold on to. You can let the horse smell the loops. Good boy. And I like to address it like it's a grooming tool because these horses are used to this, right? They're used to being groomed, so take the loops and address them as if it's a grooming tool. Down wherever I'm going to be working on the horse, I'm going to put the loops. Notice as I'm standing with him, I'm trying to stay mostly lateral with my feet parallel with his body, so that if he does bolt or jerk in some way and hit me, I'm just thrown sideways, not thrown backwards, which is dangerous. And as I go down the leg, it also puts me in a safer position to not be struck. Particularly on the hind legs. If we're standing lateral to the horse, as I come in here to work on a stifle, then if he does kick, then the closer I am, the safer I am, okay? And he's not able to actually hurt me. If I'm standing back like this, then I have a real risk of being kicked and injured, okay? So, of course, the big one here is across the back. And this is another reason why I like the small loops to do this, because if they start to do something they're easy to just pull off of the horse, okay? So I encourage you to go anywhere that the horse doesn't like it. So see, he gets a little bit like, what are you doing, Tammy, right there. So I'll leave it there for a second. And can you see he's not blinking? So that's tension and resistance. Also, he's probably wondering why it's not ticking, but okay. So there we go. That's how I would introduce the loops to a new horse. So to begin with, we're going to do position 1. Right over the withers. Now with my lead, you could just leave it like that, especially if you have a horse that is nervous about the loops, but that does leave a little more weight on this side to potentially pull. He's already starting to release because he's worked on all the time and he's pretty used to it. Okay, so I did forget one step here. That's how you would start position 1, but I like to start my system double checking that it's off, turn it on, again, double checking the intensity. Okay, I know it's off, very, very low, not completely off. And here we go, over the wither. And I still have it a little high. Over the wither. That's why it's good to not turn it on when it's on the horse. Because even though I thought it was low, it was still a little more than his body could take. Okay, so now we have no pulsing of the muscles right there. I have a timer on my phone set for 5 minutes. The reason I do 5 minutes and not 2 or 3 is I feel that it's a better time frame to be able to penetrate deeper. We'll get into that in a second. Okay, so I'm going to go up slowly until one of two things. I see him shift, or I see his muscles begin to pulse. So he shifted his weight, so I'm going to come back here and check the intensity. Now, even though the loops are here, make sure and check here, because often you can feel it there even though the loops are in position 1. In this case, I can't, so I'm going to go up a little. If a horse is uncomfortable or shifty at any point, even if the muscles are not twitching yet, stop, because they're telling you that that's enough. Okay, so I don't know if you can see it on the video or not, but he actually has some pulsing going on right here. And that is as high as I would go. For this area, for position 1, that's plenty. In fact, if a horse is acting uncomfortable, I would turn it down. The other thing is it's natural for a horse to shift their weight. In riding, in classical dressage training, there are 3, there we go with the licking and chewing, which is a release. There are 3 R's: react, resist, release. So reaction is the moving, the shifting. Resist, you'll see them stop blinking and sometimes just get very stoic. And sometimes they'll continue to move. It's hard, you know, every horse is different. Release is the deep breathing, the blinking, licking and chewing, stretching. These are all signs that the horse has released. Some horses won't release at all their first session. And here, he may urinate. He often does when I'm pulsing him. Not all of them do, but some of them do. Okay, Okay, so we would continue to go there for the 5 minutes. Now, when you approach the end of the time, you're going to turn your system down. Every area of the body responds differently, so I never assume it's going to take the same intensity. I start fresh each time. So we come back to position 2, which would just slightly overlap those loops, okay? Position 1, position 2, right behind the withers. Now, one thing I didn't show before, but I'm going to show on this position, is to make sure to walk to the other side of the horse and ensure that the loops are equal on both sides, okay? So, of course, the system is still on. It's just turned down. Now we're going to go up. And now I've returned to that same level of pulsing. Okay. I'm going to go to the other side and check. Always touching the horse all the way around so he knows where you are. Good boy. If some horses don't like you going under their neck, just walk around. And here we are with position 2. A lot of horses get reactive in position 2. With this horse, it's an area that we work on a lot. He's doing a lot of lifting and extensions, using his back right behind his wither, but he's pretty good today. So I always pay attention. We'll go over some information about fascia in another video, but I always really pay attention to the nature of the pulsing. Good boy. In the back. Is it spasmodic? Is it the same all the way across the back? Is one area pulsing more than another? And I just file that away. If you're taking notes, these are things that would be good information to put in your notes. And restart. So with him today, I'm seeing that he does have a little sticky place right here because it's like a hole, an indentation that's not pulsing at the same rate as the rest of his back. So again, information. It may be something I want to come back and address later. We're going to do another video about addressing specific areas with the different sizes of loops, but today is just the full body. So here we go with a great release. A yawn, licking, chewing. Now again, on a normal session, I would go 5 minutes per location. We're abbreviating that today just for the purpose of the video. So that's position 2. Position 3. I'm turning the system down. Now I know in our literature they have 3 and 4 in the back. I don't do that because, I mean, this is a 16 two-hand horse, and you can see that position 3 is already covering most of his back. I use that extra position in a different way, so I'll show you what I do. And here we go again. So he's shifting his weight, so that's where I stop. Because what will happen is initial pulsing can flare. So it'll look, okay, that's okay, and you go up a little bit or wait for a minute and it'll suddenly really be pulsing, or it'll barely be pulsing, and in 30 seconds it's really pulsing. So if the horse even starts to shift their weight, I stop there and evaluate what's happening, how is he handling the pulse. So here we're over his loin. He'd really like to urinate right now. He likes to do that in the cross tie anyway. Like I said, the reason I chose this horse is he gives some interesting responses for you to see and know that it's completely normal. And again, make sure and go to both sides of the horse to check the loop location and make sure that it's equal. So now, this is position 3. Turning it down, moving to position 4, which I think in our literature is technically position 5 because there's an extra location here that I don't do. Shifting his weight, that's where I stop, and I come and see what I can feel. I'm watching his eyes to see if he's blinking. I just move with them. Good boy. Oh, another good release, okay? A lot of owners get upset when their horse is dancing around. They're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Leave it alone. Don't worry about it because it's just the horse releasing itself. Say, a lot of horses you see have to move before they can release. So I don't mind. They're not trying to be naughty. They are just doing what they need to do with their body to let go. Now this is just my opinion, but I think a lot of people overpulse horses. More is not better. So here at the origin of the glute, the horses will take a little higher intensity than they will on their back. Anytime you have something that's a fascia release, that does better with lower intensity, longer duration, not higher intensity. So that is, right there, is as high as I ever pulse them. Here's a place where I'm going to put my hand up and guard so that he doesn't step into me and squash me into the cross tie. Okay, so now turning it down. And I would leave this. I wouldn't be done here. We're just showing you the positions. I would actually stay on that place longer, and we'll come back and finish his session after I demonstrate. This is a position that is a tough one if you're by yourself, okay? Up here on top of the glute and moving into the hamstrings. So here's what I do. You can even, ahead of time, put a little braid or a rubber band in the mane. But if you just take a little hunk of hair, you can Velcro that to help stabilize it. Okay, and that's not going to stick very good today because I just conditioned it, so it may take a braid to make it happen. But that's what I would do if it was needing some assistance staying there while I adjust my system, okay? And then I would go up a little bit. Okay, now when I'm doing the hamstrings, this is another one that we're gonna, it's not one to stay with it being conditioned. This is another one that we're going to do a more specific video on, but right now I've got those 2 loops pressed in between his glutes, right over the hamstring, right into the crease between his legs. And notice I'm not standing right behind him. I'm off to the side so that if he does decide to kick, I have a hold of the tail and the loops together. The tail is just lightly pulsing. Passing gas is a normal response to pulsing, and I would continue that way for 5 minutes. Again, if you can't get the lead to stay in the mane and you need to adjust it. If I'm going to turn it up, I would take the loops with me. Now when I come back, you can't just slap them on there. So create distance and evaluate the pulsing. So see, he's pulsing right there with me holding them up high. So I'm going to have to keep him there until he adjusts to that intensity. And then slowly bring them back onto his body. And I like that intensity. So in this situation, my left hand is stabilizing the lead and the loops on top. My right hand is pressing the loops in where I want to address. Okay, so that's how we would do the hamstrings. And again, we're turning it down. And we're going to come to the shoulders. So this is where I make up that extra position. I do a couple different things on the front end. Now this is also where I like to push the excess lead over the back and it stays up out of the way. So here we're going to have the butterfly loops over the shoulders and bring them forward. Now some horses really don't like this. So the manufacturer recommendations are that you do not Velcro or permanently attach anything to the horse. So I do it anyway, and I'm sure some of you will too. So if you're going to do this, make sure that it can break free. Okay, so this is a little bit better angle to see how we do the shoulder connection. Horses that don't like to have it there, you may have to hold the first time. If you're going to secure it, you want to make sure to do the Velcro like this with a tab facing you so that if anything happens, number one, just a pull of the loop is going to take it off. And I'm going to grab another Velcro because I sent that one flying. But that's the idea, right? Is that you can have it hooked loosely enough that it automatically comes off. You don't even have to necessarily reach it. And this is a position that a lot of performance horses get sore in. Okay, so my machine is turned down. And I'm going to gradually go up. Now this is a perfect example of it being very light and then it flares. I'm not going to let him come over here. We're going to do another video on safety positions and teaching horses how to move from pressure so you can keep yourself safe, but that's a video for another day. Oh, here we go. Nice release already. So I haven't touched that dial and the pulsing has gradually increased. So that's why I'm saying as soon as they start to shift their weight is a good time to stop, wait 30 seconds and evaluate what the pulsing is going to look like on that horse before you turn it up anymore. And it's, as you can see, it's pulsing lightly, but that's as much as this sensitive horse can take. The other thing you want to check is he pulsing equally on both sides? And it's just information, right? Why am I checking the pulsing equally on each side? Our technology does not diagnose or treat any specific condition. The reason that I am checking if he's pulsing equally on each side is to make sure that I have my loops equal. Though just because he's not pulsing equally does not mean that my loops are crooked. Right now they're straight. What we know about PEMF is that the most depleted tissues pulse at a lighter magnetic field strength. So if he's pulsing harder on this side than this side, He may be more depleted on that side than this side. I don't know. It's information as a trainer that I'm tucking away. So on a horse like this that is seemingly pretty sore in that area, reactive in that area, I would definitely leave him 5 minutes. Today, we're not going to because we're just doing a demonstration. I will be coming back to that area. So some of the original videos I watched of another practitioner doing PEMF had the necklace where you put the loops over the head. We do not, Pulse Centers does not agree with that. I do not agree with that. I think it's really dangerous. Here's your litmus test for positioning. If the loops cannot break free at the slightest issue, then it's not an acceptable position, okay? That's it. If you can't pull lightly and have the loops come free, don't do it. So the position I just showed, Velcroing in the front or holding it in the front, replaces the necklace, and I think much better. The other thing they used to do is the leg in the loop. I don't do that one either, and I think this one is better. You take your loops and go between the front legs, and they're gonna look like this. And you're gonna angle it like the center of those loops are coming straight at your belly button. Okay, that's the angle we want. We're gonna get up under that scapula, and it also gets the pec really well. This is one that you either have to have someone adjust for you, or you have to step away from the horse with the loops to make your adjustment. I happen to have it high enough on him. This is the one time you kind of have to have your belly button facing them. It's not the safest position, but you're going to be prepared mentally, say if something goes wrong, I'm going to release and step away, okay? You could stand like this as well, okay? This would be a little safer position. That's not very comfortable. So I do both sides of the horse like this. And we would wait for the same releases that we do in other locations. This is a big one for any performance horse, timed event horses. It's a big one on time event horses. Reiners that are reaching and crossing, dressage horses that are reaching and crossing and extending. Good boy. Another tip is to always wear really sturdy shoes. So these are Ariat shoes. They're meant for being in the barn. I don't recommend runners. If you get stepped on, there's not a lot of protection for your feet there. Something to keep in mind. And as I'm standing here, I'm making sure my toes are out of his path of travel if he steps forward or backward. Okay, so now we're going to move to the neck. So again, I'm going to turn it down. There's a couple different ways to do this. The one that I really hate is when I see this. Okay, can you see that from the side? Okay, how much real estate is this covering? None. This is wasted space. Okay, so if you're doing necks on your horses like this, that's wasted space. Same thing happens if you're doing it like this. Look at all this wasted space. That's not productive use of your loops. So here's what I like to do. Take a piece of Velcro, about 1/3 of the way. That goes over the top. And then I hold like this. So I'm gonna go ahead and undo this horse because I trust him, and he's not got loops secured on him with Velcro. I'm holding them. Okay, look at that. Covering the whole neck. So then I could have it doing the majority, and this horse has a long neck, so you've got a really big horse before you're not going to cover the majority of the neck there. Some of the horses that are crestier, like my Andalusian stallion, I have to take 2 chunks because he's deeper, but you can make those judgments. Either way, if you have open space in your loops, you're not utilizing the full ability of those loops, okay? So now I could move up here into this position. And again, the first time I would cover all these areas just to the horse's comfort. I've had horses I couldn't even get to their head the first time, and that's okay. They'll get used to it, and eventually you'll be able to get further and further. If you have a horse that's sensitive around their head, we're going to show you some other options in another video with small loops and medium loops to get in there to address those issues without having the large loops over their head. The last thing you want is to have some big wreck, okay? So now when I go to come over the head, I take this little connector, slide it down over the ears politely, and see, I've held it away from his eyes because, I mean, it's uncomfortable. If you've ever take these loops and put them right over your eyes, it's really not that comfortable. So now, again, I'm holding this with my hands, not Velcro, because some horses will be fine and all of a sudden get reactive. It's very easy to take those loops off. So I'm holding below his jaw. The Velcro's doing the job of keeping those loops held together down his forehead. This is addressing his poll, around his TMJ. If you're one-stop shopping on the head, this is the position I like. Then if I know that there's issues, I'll go back with the medium loops. Are fantastic on the head. And like I said, we're gonna do those in another video. Right now, this horse is releasing. I will often undo one side of the cross tie or completely take them out of the cross tie and have a halter rope on to do the head so that they can stretch down as needed. Again, I don't like doing horses out in any open areas at all. And if I have a horse that's wanting to leave the cross tie, I just leave them attached in the cross tie with both leads, because your first priority is to have you and the horse be safe. After they learn to be more compliant with the pulsing, you can do it like this. Or if they're really good, you can undo both sides, especially if you have an assistant to help you. So this would be the final location of the top line. And now we're going to re-secure him and move to the extremities. Such a good demo horse. Okay, now we're going to move to the extremities, and just for the sake of being realistic, I still have Ringo pulsing on his top line, because most of the time, if you have the EQXX, the whole purpose of having it is to be able to get more bang for your buck, to be doing the top line while you're doing extremities. So we're going to go over some safety things and how we address extremities while we're still pulsing the body. So if horses are uncomfortable with leads running over their back and that kind of thing, you're going to be forced to hold the leads yourself. It's not my favorite thing to do. I train all of my horses to accept what I'm going to show you. But for just a very basic tutorial on positioning, if you're gonna work on, say, a knee. I've got Velcro on my wrist. I'm gonna take a piece. Now, I want you to think about what you're trying to address. Is your main focus in the front of the leg, or is your main focus in the back of the leg? Because you're gonna have a little bit of a dead spot here where these connectors are. So if I'm addressing mostly the front, I'm gonna have the connectors in the back. Velcro that. Pulling upward and connect in the back. You could also hold with your hand. You could have Velcro in the back. Now keep in mind, these are off right now. Okay, these loops have no magnetic field coming through them at all. This is just him with the loops. So keep in mind, it's not always the magnetic field that makes him fidget around. And this horse gets pulsed all the time, and he will still do that when I first put the loops on. So just keep that in mind. If you were uncomfortable with the horse, wondering if he was gonna stand, put the lead up over your shoulder, undo the front Velcro, and you're gonna have to hold it, okay? I do my front Velcro so light that it just stabilizes it, but if this horse has a fit and it would need to come free, it can really, really readily come free. But I should have the tail facing me just a little bit more. There we go, so that it's really quick to reach and pull if you have to do that, okay? So that would, I should demonstrate the other direction too. If we're going, want to get more magnetic field at the back of the leg, attach it like this. Always having the connectors coming up. Okay, just like that. Now, I don't agree with having leads on the ground at all. If you have a horse standing here and you have your lead like this, that's not safe. Don't do it. I see it on Facebook all the time, and it makes me cringe. That lead needs to either be held up over your body, or if the horse is used to it and you have your machine positioned like I do, where this horse cannot get out of reach of my lead. So if I'm going to do the knee like this, I could go front or back. Connect, connect, even elongate to cover more real estate, okay? You could work that on any area of the leg. These are the medium loops. On extremities, you want to go as high magnetic field strength as the horse will tolerate. And I like to do a minimum of 5 minutes, preferably on any joints. I do 10. So if I were doing a knee, a fetlock, if you were targeting a suspensory or anything on the extremities, I prefer to do 10 minutes, 5 on maintenance. If it's an area of concern, say I have a hock issue, I'll even do 15. If you're working on hooves, say your horse has navicular and you're trying to get into those bony structures, I do 30 per foot with, and I'll show you that later. That's a video for a topic for another video. So right now, I wouldn't even have to unvelcro that if my horse is used to the loops. I'm gonna feed a little bit of lead. I'm gonna slide it down. And let's say that I wanted to address those cannon bone, suspensory ligaments, whatever. I would put the connector in the front because I'm not worried about the bone. I'm really targeting more tendons in this part of the leg. So I don't want this connector over that area, if that makes sense to you. And then I would secure it again. Now when you do that, see this extra lead here? We're gonna pull that just snug. And it really helps stabilize, okay? And again, this isn't even on. So it's a good idea to play with this with horses before you do turn it on, so that you can know if you're getting a real response or if they're just messing around. Okay, so now I could take that and slide it anywhere I want. There, down over collateral ligaments. You can see how you can really address whatever it is you want to address with those medium loops, one Velcro position, and slide it down the leg. Now, if I were working on the hoof as an extremity, now notice he can move, and that's not putting any pull on my lead because he's contained within the reach of it, okay? If we're working on hooves and you only had mediums, you have to be very careful there that they can't step on it. But right where I have it attached is pretty darn good, okay? So you can go medial lateral, you can turn it, and go front back. This is a really good way to do it. Okay, and you would Velcro it like this. If we're going to do stifles, personally, I just like to put Velcro on my wrist, and it's handy. I put the lead over my back. Again, petting the horse. You can go directly over the stifle and really squish it in there around that joint. Remember, this is the horse's knee joint. Okay, perfect example of why you stand close to them. Okay, this really is a great position. You can also hold them like this and butterfly. Now, why am I not going like this? Because there's no field getting right over the patella, okay? My go-to is this position, but I will also use this one. Okay? When we're doing hocks, same thing. If your horse is comfortable or you're trying to get to, let's say we're trying to get to the other side, I would put it over his back. And come to the hock. Okay, and again, if your horse is not comfortable, I would Velcro in the front and hold in the back, just like this. That way, anything happens and you just let go and it's a quick release. When you get in, this is just my opinion, again, the factory recommendations are to not Velcro anything onto the horse. I think you're safer in the lower extremities to Velcro than you are to sit down here in a crouched position and have the horse potentially kick you. So when I go to do the hind leg, excuse the bum view here. I have my foot as close to his foot as I can. Get my Velcro on with the lead sticking out so I can really get it. You're safer then to step away than you are to sit down there with it. And again, when I go to adjust, touch down the leg, foot next to the hoof, slide down, to the next position I'm going to address, which in this case is the fetlock. Step away. If they have a fit and kick, it's going to pull free, or you can let them deal with it and learn, depending on the severity of the reaction. Foot next to his hoof, pushing it down. Again. Okay, so that's how I do hind legs. I find it very effective and the safest way to do it. I hang my loops up, and then the horse is ready to be removed from the cross tie, and then we'll go over how to properly put your equipment away. Okay, so when you're all done with your session, we still have a horse pulsing here, but I'm going to go over how to correctly put your loops away. So always disinfect your loops between each horse. Lots of fungus, bacteria, viruses can be spread from horse to horse. For my personal horses, if they live together, I may go ahead and not disinfect between those two horses of the same owner that live together for obvious reasons, right? But if you're at a stable and you're moving from horse to horse, I highly recommend disinfecting between every horse. So to start, I like to start with the coils or the loops. So I'm going to wipe this down. We recommend a 10 to 20% bleach solution. So Clorox or Lysol wipes are a great option. So after you have those cleaned, I get like the first wrap wiped the length of my arm, like that. Now I'm going to unplug from my system if it's not already. And I place that connector over my arm. So now as I wipe down, allow the coil to do what it wants to do, okay? Don't fight it. Clean a new section and turn the coil as you wrap, laying it in your hand, okay? Now, see how I'm starting to get an extra little twist here? I've probably got one more. Yep, see now I've got a kink. Take the tail and let it uncoil itself. That's all you have to do. Just let the coil do what it wants to do. Don't fight it, and it will uncoil itself, okay? You should end up with the connector and the coil all together. Don't let this little puppy hang down like that. You do not want these prongs touching the ground. Now is a good time to clean the prongs if you see that there's debris on them. You'd never want to put them into the system wet though. So usually I just wait till the end of the day and wipe those down. So when you've got that all done, take a piece of your Velcro, securing the loops and the plug just like that. Then can go into your loop bag. Neatly and not bound up, okay? So then when you're finished with your machine and you've unplugged all your coils, make sure and blow out the ports with your canned air. Shut the lid, securely latching, and don't forget your cord and your surge protector, because I hear from people all the time about them leaving them at the barn. So that's putting your equipment away.